You know what I want to do before we get into what happened today, because
Yep.
I think some significant things happened today. We're 22 hours in. I think the vast majority of Americans have completely tuned out this impeachment. They are simply not paying attention. What is it that the House Democrats are accusing President Trump of having done? What is at the core of this whole impeachment trial?
So the House Democrats voted out 2 articles of impeachment. The first one is something they're calling abuse of power. Mm-hmm. The second one they're calling obstruction of Congress. Neither one of those is a crime. Neither one of those, I believe, is an impeachable offense.
But what do those refer to specifically?
So abuse of power is where they focused most of their time. And what they're arguing is that the president delayed military aid to Ukraine. Now, Ukraine is a country in Europe, used to be part of the Soviet Union, broke off. It's now a separate democracy. It's a friend. It's an ally. Remember back in 2014 when Obama was president, Russia invaded Ukraine, invaded what's called Crimea. And Russia and Ukraine have been in real tension. The Ukrainians don't like that the Russians have had a bad history of riding in with tanks and invading their country. And so we've given them military aid. And what the Democrats are arguing is the president delayed that military aid in exchange for asking Ukraine to launch 2 investigations. One, an investigation into whether Ukraine had interfered in the 2016 presidential election, the election between Trump and Hillary.
Okay.
And 2, an investigation into Burisma, which is a Ukrainian natural gas company that on whose board Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, sat. They'd paid Biden a whole lot of money.
And it was not for his expertise in Ukrainian natural gas.
Well, that is certainly true.
Right. So this is what people refer to as the quid pro quo.
Yes.
That Trump was withholding military aid, and he wasn't going to release the aid until they launched an investigation into the Bidens because he is afraid that he's going to run against Joe Biden in 2020.
And they've spent almost every minute of the last 22 hours trying to prove those 2 points.
Okay.
Here's the problem. Number one, temporarily delaying military aid is not illegal, and it's not an impeachable offense. Presidents have done that over and over and over again. All sorts of foreign aid, you see temporary delays that are put into place. But number two, asking a foreign country to engage in an investigation is not illegal on its face, and it's not an impeachable offense. That's what there's, and in fact, the president admits he asked Ukraine to engage in these investigations. So it's really kind of stunning. They're standing up there arguing over and over again. The president wanted Ukraine to investigate, and Trump has said on live TV over and over again, yes, I wanted Ukraine to investigate.
We've seen the transcripts from this phone call with the president of Ukraine, right? This was released. I know most people's eyes glaze over when everyone gets into the weeds over what he did with Ukraine and is that impeachable and on and on and on. But I think we all basically agree on the facts of the case, which is they withheld the aid, then they released the aid. President Trump did ask for an investigation by Ukraine into this corruption. And I guess what doesn't make sense to me is they impeach the president for this, except Ukraine got the aid and we never got an investigation into the corruption.
Well, and it's even more, you're right on both of those points, but even more broadly. So it's the narrative from the House Democrats has changed. You remember there was, for a couple of months, we were hearing over and over again the phrase quid pro quo.
Right.
Quid pro quo is a sort of phrase. Look, most people don't know what quid pro quo means. It's a Latin phrase. It sounds kind of scary. Quid pro quos are not illegal. This would surprise anyone who's turning on the 6 o'clock news because the media were breathlessly saying, my God, this may have been a quid pro quo. So quid pro quo is Latin for an exchange of something of value for something else of value.
Well, it means literally this for that, right? I give you this, you give me that.
You know, it would take a Yale graduate to really dive down on the Latin translation.
You know what it is? It's my Roman heritage. That's where it comes from.
But look, quid pro quos in foreign policy, we do every single day. They're not only not illegal, it's the bread and butter of foreign policy. I'll give you an example. Nicolas Maduro is the dictator of Venezuela right now. We have sanctions, economic sanctions in place against Venezuela.
Right.
We have said if Maduro steps down, we'll lift those sanctions. That's a quid pro quo. It's out and it's open. We're lifting sanctions if Maduro steps down. You look at Obama's Iran nuclear deal. That was a quid pro quo. Obama gave over $100 billion to Iran in exchange for a promise not to develop nuclear weapons. Now, that's a promise they weren't keeping, and they used the money to try to kill Americans, but that was a quid pro quo.
Right.
So all of this focus on was this a quid pro quo misses the point.